every single evening. One evening, when the lady was chatting on the internet, the person with whom she was chatting managed to hack into the lady's computer. And after hacking into the lady's computer, that criminal managed to infect her computer with a spying software called a Trojan. And once her computer was infected, the criminal, probably sitting in some other part of the world, remotely, secretly managed to use that Trojan to switch the lady's web camera on. So from that moment, whatever happened in the lady's apartment, which I like to inform all of you, was a one-room apartment in Mumbai, was actually being broadcasted live on the internet 24 hours a day. And the lady had absolutely no knowledge that something so terrible was happening to her. Life continued normally for a few weeks, after which the lady went for a job interview. And at that job interview, the person who was sitting across the desk, the person who was interviewing the lady, he immediately said, "Oh, I'll definitely give you the job. I see you every day on that pornography website. Why would I refuse?" And that's the time the lady realized that, wait a minute, something seems to be wrong. She rushed back home, disconnected her computer from the internet, complained to the police, investigations were carried out, but unfortunately, the criminal was never caught. And in the meantime, the lady probably never wanted to use the internet again. So you can imagine how dangerous cybercrimes have become for individuals like you and me and this Mumbai lady who use the internet on a day-to-day basis just for some chatting or Facebooking or some online entertainment. If that case study did not scare all of you enough, I have another case study for all of you, this time from the government sector. I'm sure all of you heard about NASA. A few years ago, NASA successfully completed a spaceship launch. And a few weeks after the successful completion of the launch, what the NASA officials realized was that a criminal who was later found out to be an 11-year-old boy from Russia. I'll repeat, an 11-year-old boy from Russia was the criminal in this example. He had managed to hack into the NASA network, and sitting in his bedroom or drawing room in Russia, he took complete control over the NASA network and then misused that control to change the direction of a spaceship in space. So by the time the NASA officials realized what was going on, they'd already lost thousands of dollars as far as space fuel is concerned. So clearly computer hacking is a problem not only for individuals like the Mumbai lady, but also for big organizations like NASA. Imagine if an 11-year-old can cause so much destruction on the internet. Imagine how powerful the internet is for cyber criminals. One more example, which is from the banking sector. The victim in this example was one of the largest banks in America. And some criminal managed to find a loophole on the bank's network and managed to reach the main server of the bank, which was managing all the transactions and all the account information of all the bank customers. Now, the bank had around 26 million accounts. And every month, what the criminal would do was, the criminal will transfer 1 cent. 1 cent is like 1 paisa or 1 rupee from every single customer's bank account. He'll transfer 1 rupee every month from their account into his own account. And imagine if you're a customer, if you receive your bank statement, if you notice that 1 rupee has been taken out from your account, you will think that maybe it was some tax or maybe some transaction fee or something like that. So you won't pay much attention to it at all, right? So most of the customers, first of all, most customers won't even notice that 1 rupee has gone. Even if they notice that 1 rupee has been gone, they will probably not take action because they think it's some tax. So from a customer's perspective, nobody complained. But from a criminal's perspective, if you do some simple math calculation, he continued this for 6 months. So every month, he'll transfer 1 rupee or 1 cent out of every customer's account into his own account. The bank had 26 million accounts or customers. So if you multiply 26.8 million accounts by 1 cent into 6 months, that's around 1,600,000 US dollars, which is around 7 or 8 crores. So that is the amount of fraud that this criminal managed to execute by simply transferring 1 rupee out of each and every person's account, or 1 cent out of each and every person's account at the end of every month. So if you're a smart criminal, not only do you need to figure out a smart way to hack into a computer or a network, you also need to be really smart about how you execute the attack. Because think about it, not only this hacker managed to hack the bank, he wanted to not get caught. So he came up with a strategy of transferring only 1 cent out of their accounts, which is why nobody detected this for 6 months. So computer hacking is a problem for individuals like the Mumbai lady. It's a problem for big organizations like NASA. It is also a problem for big companies like this American bank. So now that you understand how dangerous cybercrimes are, let us actually start discussing the technical concepts, the fundamental concepts that you need to know to be able to start learning how to hack. I kind of mentioned IP addresses in the live lecture as well. Let me now, in today's lecture, take things to the next level. So we will be getting into IP addresses. We'll be discussing IP addresses in detail. So first of all, I'll explain to you what exactly is an IP address, what are the different types of IP addresses, how to convert an IP address from one type to another. Then we'll move on to how you can find out somebody else's IP address, where I'll give you live demos as well. You can find out somebody else's IP address by sending them an email, by sending them a link on Facebook or chat, or if they send you an email, or if they visit your website. So all these 4 different techniques I'll be showing you through a live demonstration and by explaining the theory. And finally, we'll be discussing how to trace an IP address on the internet. So what exactly is an IP address and why is it so important? See, first of all, if you remember the first step that every hacker has to perform, which is to identify the victim. What does identifying the victim mean? It means you need to find out the IP address of the victim. So without knowing what an IP address is, without knowing the victim's IP address, you can't even start the process of hacking into their computer. So that is why IP addresses are so important. Now, what is an IP address? Every single computer, mobile phone, or tablet, or any other device that is connected to the internet has a unique number given to it. And that unique number is known as an IP address, and it is at that number that a criminal can contact that person. So imagine, if I want to contact you in real world, what do I need to do? I need to somehow find out your mobile phone. And once I know your mobile phone number, I can start calling you up anytime I want, and I can start harassing you. Similarly, if I want to hack into your computer and steal some data from your computer, I need to somehow find out your computer's IP address. Without your IP address, I cannot really do anything. So what does an IP address look like, and what is the anatomy of an IP address? See, the formal definition of an IP address is that it is a 32-bit address which is divided into 4 fields of 8 bits each. And each bit contains some numbers between 1 to 255. So typical example of an IP address is 203.94.35.12. So if you notice, this IP address is divided into 4 parts. Each part is an 8-bit number. So the first 8 bits is 203, second 8 bits are 94, third 8 bits are 35, fourth 8 bits are 12. And if you add all of them up, it is 32-bit address. So that is what typically an IP address looks like. And by just looking at an IP address, you can actually find out a lot of important information about the network that that particular IP address belongs to. See, there are a variety of different classes of an IP address. So you have classes A, B, C, D, and E. So depending on what the IP address is, you can identify which class it belongs to. So if the IP address is anywhere between 0.0.0.0 to 126.255.255.255, it means that that particular IP address belongs to class A. And similarly, there are different ranges. So 128 to 191 means class B, 192 to 223 is class C, and so on. So by just looking at the IP address, you can identify which class it belongs to. For example, in the previous slide, we saw the IP address 203.94. So what class does that IP address belong to? So if I go back to this table, it's 203. That means it is class C, because 203 is between 192 and 223. So that particular IP address that we saw in the previous slide belongs to the class C network. Now, once you know which class a particular IP address belongs, you can actually divide the IP address into 2 parts. There is a network ID part, and then there's a host part, or a host ID part. So if the IP address belongs to class A, then the network ID is usually the first 8 bits, and the remaining 3 8 bits are the host IDs. So in this example, the IP address that we had in the previous slide was a class C IP address, which basically means the first 3 octets or the first 3 8 bits are all network IDs, and only the last 8 bit is the host ID. So in other words, if you look at this IP address 203.94.35.12, what is the network ID? The network ID is, because this is a class C IP address, then the network ID is 203.94.35, and the host ID is 12. So imagine if there are 100 computers in this particular network, only the last 8 bit, that is the 12, will keep changing. So if there are 100 computers, you can start with 0 and go on to 99. So you keep changing from 0, you change 1, then 2, 3, 4, till 99. You can accommodate 100 computers in a class C network by just simply changing the last host ID part of the IP address. So that is typically what the anatomy of an IP address is all about. You have different classes based on the range of an IP address, or based on which range the IP address lies in. You can find out the class, and once you know the class, you can divide the IP address into the network ID part and the host ID part. Now there are some special IP addresses that are reserved for some special purposes. So there's an IP address which is 127.0.0.1. So that IP address always refers to your own machine. So it is, the technical term for it is local loopback address. But essentially what it means is, if you type this IP address, you're basically connecting to your own computer. And then for various classes, so class A, class B, and class C, there are some special private IP addresses that are reserved only to be used inside the private network or the local LAN. So if it's a Class C network, the IP address range 192.168.0.0 till around 192.168.255.255 is reserved for the private use only, or internal network use only. So now that we understand the anatomy of an IP address well, let's actually discuss how to convert an IP address into different formats. See, typically when you look at this IP address that is mentioned on the screen, it is 171.67.215.200. So this IP address is in the decimal format. But it is extremely easy to convert a particular IP address into binary format, octal format, and even hexadecimal format. And you can do this using the Windows calculator application. Every computer comes with the calculator app pre-installed. So let us now see the first demonstration of today's lecture, which is how to convert an IP address from one format to another. So let me actually open up Notepad and also open up the calculator app. So if you look at the screen, let me just type the same IP address that we saw earlier. So 171.67.215.200, right? So this is the IP address in the decimal format. And I want to try and convert it into all other different types of formats. So if you look at the screen, I've opened up the Windows calculator application. And when you open the application, click on View and make sure you select Programmer. So there are different user interfaces available. So you have Standard, Scientific, Programmer, and Statistics. So I would say select Programmer and make sure that on the left hand side box you have decimal selected and enter 171. So the first 8 bits of this IP address is 171. So I enter 171 into the calculator, and then I select, say if I want to convert this into binary. So I select binary. So automatically it converts 171 into the binary format. So the binary format of 171 is 10101011. Similarly, you can convert all other bits as well. So let's convert 67 into binary. So I type 67, make sure that the decimal is selected, and then I select binary. And if you notice, it has converted even 67 into binary. And just to compare, just to make sure that we are doing it correct, you can compare with the PowerPoint slide as well. So if you notice, up until now we have done it accurately. Now if you notice, when we converted 67 from decimal to binary, there is 1 digit less. So all you need to do is add a 0 at the beginning. So typically since it's every IP address is divided into 4 parts, each part is 8 bits. So in binary there should be 8 digits. But when we converted 67 into binary, we got only 7 digits. So you have to add a 0 at the beginning. So similarly, you can convert 215 as well. So I select decimal, I type 215 into calculator, I select binary, and I get the binary version of 215. And finally, you have the last 8 bits, which is 200. So I type 200 into the calculator, select binary, and I have the binary version of 200 as well. So we just managed to convert this IP address from the decimal format into the binary format. Now instead of selecting binary here in the Windows calculator, I could have also selected hexadecimal or octal. So depending on what you select, you can easily convert your decimal IP address into binary format, octal format, and even hexadecimal format. As simple as that. So that is how you can actually use the Windows calculator to convert an IP address from a decimal format into another, or vice versa. You can do the reverse as well. Now, in case you do not wish to use the Windows calculator, because in the Windows calculator you need to one by one enter each and every 8 bits at a time. So instead you can use this website. The website address is www.csgnetwork.com csgnetwork.com/ipaddconv. So ipaddconv.html. So if I open up this website, this is what you'll see on the screen. So it's basically a website where you can type in the IP address at the top. So let me actually use the same IP address. So it's 171.67.215.200. So I type it into this website and I click on calculate, and if you notice at the bottom, it has actually displayed the decimal IP address in variety of different formats. So you have the binary format, you have the octal format, hexadecimal format, 32-bit binary, and pure decimal. So you can use any of these IP addresses or any of these formats to access or connect to the same website or the same system somewhere on the internet. So converting an IP address into its various formats is clearly not very difficult. So now that you understand what exactly an IP address is and how to convert an IP address into various formats, let us now learn how you can find out somebody else's IP address. Because this brings me back to what we had discussed earlier, the various steps that need to be followed by a hacker whenever a hacker wants to hack into a computer. The first step was you need to identify the victim. So if your victim is a company, then you don't need to find out the company's IP address, because typically you're just going to attack the website. So this part of the lecture is not relevant. But if the victim is a individual, like maybe your friend, then finding out their IP address is very important. So in this next few minutes, we'll be learning how you can find out somebody else's IP address. And the first technique is by simply sending an email to the victim, you can find out their IP address. I repeat, by simply sending an email to the victim, you can find out the victim's IP address. And you can do this by simply connecting to this very useful website known as getnotify.com. www.getnotify.com. So let's open up my browser and let's connect to getnotify.com. So if all of you look at the screen, this is what getnotify.com looks like. You'll probably need to sign up. Signing up is free, so anybody can sign up on this particular website. And once you're signed up, you need to log into your account. So I'm just going to quickly log into my account. I obviously won't tell you what my password is. And I click on the sign in button. So if you notice, now I've successfully managed to sign into my getnotify.com account. And once you're signed into your account, you need to click on track mail. So I click on this track email button. And if you notice, there is an online form that you need to fill up. So finding out somebody else's IP address is actually as simple as filling up this online form. So how does this exactly work? See, getnotify.com is actually very, very interesting. What it does is, it allows you to create a tracking photograph or a tracking image. Once you've created a tracking photograph or image, you copy it from this website getnotify.com and you paste it into the body of the email that you're sending to the victim. Right? So you create an email. In that email you type whatever you want. Imagine that the victim is your friend. So in the email you can type something like, hey dude, what's up? Let's go for a movie tonight. So the email could be anything. But inside that email, along with the text of the email, you also include a photograph that has been created by getnotify.com.